Most travelers come to Egypt for the pyramids, but beyond the monuments, there are remote oases hidden in the desert, Nile towns shaped by slow river life, coral reefs among the clearest in the world, and communities where daily rhythms feel unchanged. And most visitors never go that far. Egypt isn't just ancient history. It's distance, what people think Egypt is. When people picture Egypt, they see pyramids, tombs, and desert. And that version exists. It's the Egypt of textbooks and documentaries. The Egypt sold on postcards and package tours. But Egypt stretches far beyond Giza and Luxor. It follows the Nile for more than 4,000 miles, threading through landscapes that shift from green valley to barren rock. It reaches deep into desert and out toward the Red Sea, where sand meets salt water in abrupt, unexpected beauty. The country is larger than most realize, more varied, more lived in. Once you leave the monument circuit, the country shifts. The crowds thin, the pace changes, the interactions feel less transactional. You start seeing Egypt not as a destination frozen in time, but as a place still moving through it. The pyramids, the anchor. The pyramids dominate the horizon outside Cairo. Built over 4,500 years ago, they still define how the world sees Egypt. They're engineering marvels, symbols of ambition and precision, proof of a civilization that organized labor, resources, and knowledge on a scale that still impresses. But even here, daily life continues around them. The pyramids are permanent fixtures in a city that never stops expanding. They're both monument and backdrop. The city around them moves. And that duality, ancient stone standing firm while modern life churns around it, is part of what makes Egypt compelling. The past doesn't exist in isolation here. It sits in plain view, surrounded by the present. Siwa Oasis, the remote Egypt. In the far west, near the Libyan border, Siwa Oasis feels isolated. It's a 10-hour drive from Cairo, much of it through flat, featureless desert. But when you arrive, the landscape shifts abruptly. Palm trees rise from desert ground, fed by natural springs that have sustained life here for thousands of years. Salt lakes glow under the sun, their edges crusted white, their surfaces reflecting sky. Traditional mud brick buildings blend into the landscape, weathered and organic, as if they grew rather than were built. It's quiet, smaller, less hurried. Siwa has its own dialect, its own customs, its own rhythm. Tourism exists here, but it doesn't dominate. Visitors are guests in a place that functions independently of them. There are olive groves, date farms, hot springs where locals and travelers bathe side by side. This is Egypt without tour buses, without itineraries printed on laminated cards, without the pressure to see everything in 3 days. It's a place where stillness feels earned, not manufactured. Aswan and the Nile. In southern Egypt, Aswan sits along a calmer stretch of the Nile. The river here is wide and slow, bordered by granite boulders and desert hills that glow amber in the afternoon light. The feluccas drift slowly across the water, their white sails catching wind, their captains steering with minimal effort. Nubian villages bring color to the riverbanks, homes painted in blues, yellows, and oranges, standing out against the muted tones of sand and stone. Aswan feels less like a tourist city and more like a functioning river town that happens to have tourists passing through. The Nile isn't just scenery here. It's infrastructure, transportation, livelihood. It's the reason Aswan exists, and the reason life has persisted in this part of Egypt for millennia. People depend on it, respect it, live according to its presence. Most visitors leave Egypt thinking they've seen it, but the deeper you travel, the more it changes. If you're drawn to destinations beyond the obvious, this channel is built for that. We focus on places that reward patience, regions that require longer stays, experiences that don't fit neatly into highlight reels. If that approach resonates, subscribe. More destinations like this are coming. The Red Sea, unexpected Egypt. Along the Red Sea, Egypt feels almost tropical. Coral reefs stretch for miles beneath impossibly clear water, home to fish in colors that seem exaggerated until you see them yourself. Water visibility is among the clearest in the world. On good days, you can see 50 meters down. Desert mountains rise directly behind the coast, creating a sharp, surreal divide between two ecosystems. It doesn't feel like pyramid country. It feels coastal, relaxed, less tied to history and more focused on what's happening now. This is where many travelers stay longer than expected. Because it's warm, because the water is remarkable, because after days of temples and tombs, the simplicity of ocean and desert feels clarifying. Desert towns and everyday life. In smaller desert towns, daily life feels steady. These are places with no major monuments, no tourist infrastructure, just communities built around agriculture, trade, or proximity to a road. Tea is poured slowly, often from brass pots into small glasses. Conversations happen over cups that are refilled without asking. Shops open and close with the heat. Midday streets empty. Activity resumes in the evening. Conversations stretch. There's less urgency, less schedule. There's less rush. More routine. Less monument. More people. It's in these towns that Egypt stops feeling like a destination and starts feeling like a country, where you notice the details, how bread is carried unwrapped, balanced on heads or tucked under arms, how children play the same games kids play everywhere, how elders sit in the same spots every afternoon, watching the street. These places don't appear in guidebooks. They're not designed for visitors. But they reveal more about how Egypt functions than any museum could. Food and local flavor. Egyptian food is practical and filling. It's built for labor, heat, and limited resources. Meals are calorie-dense and affordable. Kosheri mixes rice, lentils, pasta, and sauce, a dish created from necessity that became a national staple. Shared, often eaten slowly with hands in groups. Food here isn't performance, it's fuel and ritual combined. And eating with locals, whether at a street stall or a family table, offers insight that no guided tour provides. Why travelers are exploring beyond the pyramids. Egypt's monuments attract millions. They're the reason most people book the flight. The reason Egypt remains one of the most visited countries in Africa. But more travelers are combining regions. A few days in Cairo, seeing the essential sights, the pyramids, the Egyptian Museum, the chaos of Khan el-Khalili. Then south along the Nile, where the pace slows and the architecture shifts from Islamic to Pharaonic. Or west into the desert, to places like Siwa or the White Desert, where isolation becomes the attraction. People are realizing that Egypt isn't a single experience. It's a collection of distinct regions, each with its own climate, culture, and appeal. And that variety rewards travelers who take time. Who this side of Egypt is for. This side of Egypt is for travelers who want more than a photo. For those willing to leave the main tour routes and accept that some places require effort to reach. For people who prefer contrast, river, desert, sea, and understand that variety creates richer trips than repetition. If you want history, it's here. Temples, tombs, pyramids that have outlasted empires. If you want quiet, it's here too. Oases where you can walk for hours without seeing another person. Villages where days unfold without distraction. If you want adventure, the Red Sea offers some of the best diving in the world. If you want to understand how a country works, the small towns provide that insight. Egypt accommodates different kinds of travelers. You just have to know which version you're seeking. Egypt isn't just pyramids. It's oases, river towns, coral reefs, and desert communities shaped by time and distance. And once you move beyond the obvious stops, you realize how much more there is. How much depth exists beneath the surface version. How rewarding it is to travel slowly, to let a place unfold rather than rush through it. Subscribe for more journeys beyond the tourist version. What part of Egypt would you explore first?